But watching the game, I was like, England, they were in control. I was like, they're definitely going to go on to win the game. I thought thought their kicking game was really good in midfield. Like the errors that New Zealand were making, the penalties. I thought defensively they were strong, and then they make an awful lot of changes at quite an early stage in the game. I think for me, when you play a team like the All Blacks, it's a different feeling in terms of there's no need to make too many changes against a squad like that because you need to stay on top of them constantly through 80 minutes. You cannot let them have even 5 minutes of ball time like they did. They showed, didn't they? They looked like they weren't panicking. They were like, right, they're going to give us a chance. England did. They sort of just stopped playing England, didn't they? Bringing George Ford on. Thought Harry Randall coming on was a wild decision. I really don't get that. If they were losing the game, then yeah, Harry Randall's the man. But when you're winning a game like that and in control, Ben Spencer's kicking game is just on the money. That's going to win you the game. Is that middle third? Just don't give them any sort of inkling. And he had a couple. I think he kicked one not straight dead, doesn't he? I think around the halfway mark. Just gave them easy ins, and I can see why they brought George Ford on in terms of he usually would sort of finish the game with his kicking out of hand. The sort of the crossfield bombs that they do. And Fairbursa, by the way, is an absolute weapon of a player, isn't he? For me, he's a test lion. But yeah, just strange decisions. Changed the whole front row at once. When the scrum was pretty good, and then it got absolutely demolished in the last 10, 15. So strange decisions, especially against such a top side. As a player, they were like building into the game, and then suddenly to be dragged off after 50, 55 minutes, it's like if I was those players, I'd be asking the question, like, what the hell? Why are you doing this? Which
if
makes me think,
Alex, you would never take him off. You would never take Spencer off until the end of the big match. Quins would never take Marcus Smith off unless they had to until the end. And they were, like you said, they were both probably playing their best ever matches for England. Well, Spencer obviously is his first start. So why would you do it? I mean, even at the time, it felt horribly wrong. And there was no retrospect going on here. It felt wrong at the time.
It seems to me like that was their plan. That must have been a plan that they had going into the game, because as a player as well, coming off the bench, winning a game against New Zealand like that, that's mentally, that's to suddenly just get clicked straight into the feeling of a game, straight into the tempo. That is so hard to do. When you're losing a game, it's totally different because you're chasing it, you're trying to make things happen. But when you're winning, you've got to understand how the game is flowing straight away. And I don't care if you're a 90 cap, 100 cap player, that's so hard to just suddenly get into, and to change your two linchpins in your scrum half and your 10, like the two players that are your generals, they're the ones that put you in the right areas of the field. That was that was a bit of an odd decision, and it'd be interesting to see. I'm not sure if he had come out and said, "Yeah, I've made a mistake," or that was a plan. A bit of a weird one for me.
Part of it is player management, isn't it? I mean, if there was ever a game to show that substitutions for the sake of substitutions happen, it could be seen as this one. But also, obviously, the knives have come out for George Ford. I mean, don't get me, it was hardly a George Ford masterclass, but he was put in a fairly unfortunate situation. Harry Randall, similar. Yeah, he had a couple of poor box kicks. His pass to George Ford for the drop goal was also not very friendly. But the thing is, obviously, these guys came on when we were in control. We had an 8-point lead. And you're almost putting them in a position there where, should things go wrong, the knives then come doubly out, which, in a way, obviously, George Ford is, nearly 100 caps. He can probably handle it. Harry Randall's still fairly early on in his England career. And things like that, they can sort of get at you a little bit and sort of stick to your reputation as maybe not someone that you can bring on to close out games when it's actually just a, poor man management, really.
Yeah, but it seems to be a bit of a reoccurring theme, isn't it, in terms of bringing Marcus Smith off early? Like, has he played many 80 minutes for England? It seems to be a thing that Steve Borthwick does, is bring those halfbacks off early. I thought Ben Spencer was really good, kicking game. For someone that hasn't played for England for a while, I thought he was really good. Marcus Smith, like you said, he seems to be maturing as a player, which I just couldn't believe he came off. In a game like that as a 10, I think Dan Bigger spoke about it in the week in terms of you have that feeling of how the game's going, and he would have probably ended up getting better and better, because I think they would have just kept going at New Zealand. Because if you think about it, they played out in New Zealand, they lost in the last 15, 20 minutes over there twice. Where are their learnings, in terms of, it seems they've just done the same thing again and again. So it'd be frustrating, because I don't think they're going to get a better chance to beat New Zealand like that for a long time, because they're only growing as well. They're probably in a similar position in terms of rebuilding, aren't they? New coach, new teams. You've got these new, they're finding all these players like the back row. What's his name? Satiti, is it? Like,
just call him Wallace. We'll know the names for the next 10 years.
Yeah, but like,
he's as good a prospect as I've seen in many, many moons. I mean, the thing, Alex, with substitutions. I mean, yes, it may well have been planned, and there are plenty of coaches who go in with a plan that they don't shift. Irrespective of the circumstances that develop during the game, they don't shift it. This guy's going on after whatever, blah, blah, blah. Or sometimes they do it off GPS, don't they? Somebody says, oh, this guy is flagging a bit. And that was the Ross Moriarty story, I think I'm right in saying, when Rob Howley, bless him, took him off against England when Ross had made sort of 4 momentum shifting tackles in the space of about 5 minutes, was obviously running hot, and suddenly gets a shepherd's crook. And no one, and even Warren said, well, if I'd been in charge for that game, that's not a substitution I'd have made. So sometimes it just seems that people get locked into a theory. They're either going to make a call on GPS or they're going to do it on timing, which isn't.
It was such a bad call.